All right, good evening, nerds around the world. Welcome to episode 119 of the Nerds Unite as One podcast. I am Paul English, your host. And as always, we have a fantastic show for you and a great panel that I'm going to introduce to you. We got the regulars here, Colton and Mike. What's going on, gents?
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here. I'm looking forward to this version of our interrogations and whatnot. I think it'll be a pretty cool one.
Howdy.
And check out who's back. Wait a minute. Do we know this guy? I don't think we've seen him for a while.
Well, This will probably make you remember. Wait a minute. I tried muting him. It didn't work.
I don't think he lets you.
Let's try that again.
There we go. I think you might remember that.
Thou shalt not abuse the power of the mute.
What's going on? Chris Miller is back for a main show.
What's going on, guys? It's been a long time. It's glad to be back, and especially I've been missing this. I've been missing this whole thing. Also, Star Trek Discovery, great show. It's just like great additions, great Star Trek series. It's just saying they did it. Kapla. I'll be watching more episodes.
Okay then. All right, guys. So as Colton hinted, it is another interrogation episode. This is quickly becoming one of our favorite themes on this show. We're just loving it so much. But this time it's going to be a little bit of a different interrogation. We're still going to have the same format, but the subject is a little bit different. We are doing television shows again, but this time we are going to be discussing television shows that had a major impact on us, whether emotional impact, changed the way we looked at things, changed how we wanted to live our lives, that kind of thing. So you know the format of how this goes. I point to someone, they say the name of the show real quick, and then one at a time, everyone gets on the hot seat. And we ask questions. So if you are all ready, we are going to get this started. And I'm going to start on the far. I'm going to start from middle to go left and right. Mike, what is your show?
Yeah, give me some warning next time. My show is Mystery Science Theater 3000. Yes, not only is it my favorite show of all time, but it is also one of the most influential in my life.
All right, then. Colton, what is your show?
My show is the spin-off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel.
Quick reflexes on that. Chris, what is your show?
My show is a show that started over 50 years ago. It's become a staple in science fiction television. It's about this I just love the show. Who doesn't love the show? But it concerns of a crew of humans going out in the far future to explore strange new worlds and seek out new life, new civilizations. I'm talking about G. Brian Barry's one and only Star Trek.
Humans in one Vulcan. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget the Vulcan, dude. Well, my show is also Star Trek.
Shut up with that horrible imitation.
Seriously, Colton, you're giving everyone earaches right now. Yeah, my show is also Star Trek. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and get started. And because he hasn't been here in a while, he needs to get the feel of the thing. Chris, you are first on the hot seat. So get ready for a burn, my friend. Colton, you're up first. What is your first question for Chris?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, am I allowed to talk now?
Yeah, you can talk. You can talk now, Pumpkin. You can talk now, Pumpkin.
If I didn't ask you to.
Okay.
Yes, you can talk.
Just make sure I'm not gonna get muted again before I can say my words as revenge for all those times I muted Chris. All right then, Chris. All right. So Star Trek is the show that influenced you. All right. Why that silly looking grin off your face is scaring me. All right.
Yeah.
Star Trek is let's start with a simple question. What is it about Star Trek that impacted your life in such a way? Impacted your life the most?
I think it was drawn to it. I mean, there are many different elements of why Star Trek had this pull. Why Star Trek pulled to me. I mean, I don't know if I can put on just one specific thing. I mean, Star Trek can be so many things to so many different people. Just like this wondrous adventure series of going to new destinations and stuff like that. It could be a social commentary on very much on human issues and stuff like that, moral ethical dilemmas. To me, I don't know if I can pin it to just one thing. Maybe it's the positive vision of the future. Maybe it's the fact that it is like in the distant future, where human civilization has our planet has become a very elevated that of a peaceful one. There's no war, there's no poverty, there's no disease. Human beings. I mean, it is a very we evolved into a very plural state. But it isn't just, and of course, all races and cultures all get along. Stuff like that. It's just like, I mean, but like I said, I wouldn't just put it on that aspect alone. One of the aspects that appealed to me. Of course, one of the elements that drew me in was the characters. Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. Even though I saw Next Generation first, I gravitated a little more towards the original, despite, it does date in some aspects, but I liked those characters. Those are my favorite crew most of all, just like Kirk, Spock, McCoy. It's just like, who didn't want to be Kirk? He had this bravado. He had this swagger about him, just like, but he doesn't match Han Solo, though. But yeah, the Spock, the cool, logical Vulcan, the Bones, sardonic, and, wisecracking, cranky country doctor. I mean, who doesn't love guys like that, But yeah, it's like there are many things about this series that I particularly enjoy about it. I mean, you can point out the three, just the positive vision, the hopeful vision about it. Human beings will. I mean, this planet will become a very peaceful one, and we all find a common ground. I mean, and it's just like, and we can explore this galaxy together. It's just like, in the adventure, being new worlds and going to new worlds to see, meet new civilizations and so forth. And also what appeals to me is like the important issues. Like war, racism, sexism and stuff like that. It touched upon very human and very, very complex and very intriguing issues. Star Trek is many. Like I said, I don't think I can pin in just one thing. Maybe it's just those reasons alone that have about Star Trek overall that has had the most influence and most impact on me. I mean, because I would think those reasons alone why Star Trek has stuck with me for so long.
Okay, all right.
Cool.
Mike, you're up.
Oh my. Okay. Well, I mean, there are a number of different characters, the main characters in Star Trek. Which one did you kind of like admire the most? Not because of like what he had, because like what they stood for.
I would say Spock was my favorite character, most of all, throughout the original series. Yeah, Kirk, he's sort of like a popular character. He had, I wouldn't say he has bombastic qualities. He certainly fits as larger than life. But Spock, to me, was the more intriguing and more complex character, at least to me. I mean, I think what I liked most about Spock is that he was level-headed. He was cool. He was rational. He didn't crack under pressure when the situation became dire, so forth. He was always, in control. But yet, of course, Spock being half human, there is this, he does have that emotional side to him. That's what makes him so rich. Despite the fact he could be cool and very controlled and very calm, I mean, there is that emotional connection. That's part of the gravitas. It had the part of the gravitas of the character, at least for me. Because I mean, yeah, as much as I enjoyed the other characters, Spock, really hits it for me because he does. I mean, it's what Kirk said. He is all of the souls he has encountered in his travels. He is the most.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, so Chris, here's my first question. As you know, Star Trek is a show that has never. Well, Gene Roddenberry was never a man to shy away from social commentary, and what he recognized about Star Trek was that he could use the veil of science fiction to discuss issues of the day that would never be allowed on any other never be allowed on any other type of show. And like I said, he used it to deal with issues like drugs or racism or war and all that stuff. So was there any episode in your mind that dealt with these issues which stood out to you the most, and if so, why?
That would be a difficult. I mean, I'm not sure if I have a particular episode. There are many. I mean, there are many different episodes. I mean, I'm not sure if I could pin it on just one. I mean, of course, you know, there are. I mean, of course, you know, you had of that show of that particular period. I mean, you know, Star Trek. Of course, they dealt with the Vietnam War. What's it called? The Vietnam War. And also did with the Cold War. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I can pin. I'm not sure if I can pin. I'm not sure if I can pin down a single episode. I guess you're gonna have to. I guess you're gonna have to come back to me on that. I'm not sure because there are many wonderful examples. You know, I mean, I think the ones where the crew often deals with like moral and ethical dilemma. Should we do this? Is this the right thing to do? It's just like it becomes. I think in terms of social issues, I mean, just presenting through the show. I mean, it's hard for me to present. It's hard for me to pick a clear one. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I have one. I'm just like I think the Devil in the Dark. I mean, it's a piece of TV that holds up many years later. It's just like to me that's like because you got. I mean, it's like there's a mystery there. This is like emotional, logical conflict, so forth, so on. It's just like it's just, yeah. The Orville, I mean, it's not the Orville. I mean, the Horta looks like a giant pizza, no doubt. But I think that's the one that sticks out the most for me in terms of dealing with, because it has a very strong moral center there. I mean, that's what I liked about it. I think most of all because you know, the ethical core is something it really draws you in. I think that's like the one that stands out, at least for me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. All right. Colton, you're up again.
All right. So we've had 5 different Star Trek shows thus far, going on 6 with the recent release of Star Trek Discovery. So my question for you is, which version of Star Trek do you think best embodies what Star Trek is about and why?
Although I would say Deep Space Nine is the best Star Trek series. I mean, I know I said Next Generation before, but my stance has changed to Deep Space Nine because that's like the best, to me, the best. The one you're asking me is the one that fulfills Gene Roddenberry's vision the most.
Yes.
That will be Star Trek: The Next Generation. You know, to some that will be like it's a blander version of it's like a blander, icier version of the original series. Yeah, the original series had much more colorful characters, but you know, but Next Generation really is the one that really fulfilled Gene Roddenberry's. It's the one that really fulfilled Gene Roddenberry's vision. I mean, and this is the one that he got to, and this is the one that really he had the most control over. You know. He didn't have to have a studio looking over his shoulder. He's just like, I mean, you have, I mean, for the next generation, it really portrays human beings as evolved. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, well, not necessarily evolved. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, but yeah, to me, the Next Generation, I guess the Next Generation has lessened in several years for me. I feel it's a little too PC. I mean, I guess, but you know, but I feel like, yeah, like I think you know, we got the best portrayal of Gene Roddenberry's vision from that show. I mean, most definitely. I mean, of course, you know, yeah, you can see that Roddenberry was big on restriction. I mean, it was a bit. He had to be. He was a little more on. He had to face more restrictions when he made the original back in the '60s, but to be Next Generation is where he finally got to show people what his vision of the future was all about. I mean, even though it's the second best, it's the one that fulfills his vision the most.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool.
All right. Mike, you're up again.
Yeah, kind of venturing into the movies here for a bit. At least the movies for the original series. Was there any of them that you felt strongly like showed Gene Roddenberry's kind of message? You think any one of those really kind of stood out as a good example?
That is a tough one to answer, because even though I don't think Roddenberry, I mean, as much as those movies are purely Star Trek. You know, this is not just because they have the name slapped on them. It's just the feel of them. I don't think they really.
I don't mean like the new movies. I mean like Star Trek, the motion picture.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, I would say, even though I don't like this movie, Star Trek: The Motion Picture I think it comes the closest to Gene, to what Gene wanted to do with Star Trek. I mean, it's just like, to me, it's the most intellectual. I mean, because it is the most. Star Trek is known as an intelligent science fiction series, but it is the most intellectual of their all. I mean, it's granted it doesn't have any action. It's the most cerebral out of the films, even though I'm not a particular fan of it. To me, it fulfills what Gene Roddenberry wanted to do with Star Trek, to touch on and to engage the intellect. That most primarily. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of it. To me, comes that to me that's just my biggest example. Or maybe I take that back. Maybe The Voyage Home is because it very much centered on a very serious issue. Our relationship to the environment. That's the and I love The Voyage Home. I think both it and The Voyage Home. Most of it are both shoot 'em up, bang. I mean, shoot and bang and action adventure movies. But those movies really are the examples to me that are closest to the TV series. I feel.
Cool.
All right. So my next question is, I mean, being the Star Trek fan that you are, like I am, I know that you've said a lot of things good to say about it, but has there ever been a point you think in Star Trek's timeline where you think they might have either fell short or slipped away from what Gene's overall goal, or do you think there was any part of Star Trek's history where you think they faltered a lot? If so, where do you think it was and why?
I'm not really sure. Maybe it's the time when Voyager was on the air. Or maybe I don't think any Star Trek. I don't think any program after the originals. I don't think any program in like the period between 1987 and 85 strayed close from Gene Roddenberry's vision, but I feel that some of them may have been a little too safe, a little too rigid. Voyager Enterprise being the biggest examples for me, because they felt pedestrian, they felt a bit safe. They had good intentions. I see you rolling your eyes there. Come on. I see you rolling your eyes there, Paul.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but a ship where the captain's a woman, her first officer is Native American, her chief engineer is a woman, her science officer is black, and one of her and she has an Asian on board. How is that safe in 1995?
I'm not talking about in terms of the how I'm talking about in terms of the ethnicity and race of each members of the cast. I'm talking about in terms of storytelling, storytelling and just the overall feel in general. I suppose. What I mean by saying this is that it didn't really take a lot of. To me, it didn't take a lot of risk. With Voyager, you didn't really feel the urgency, the desperation of the crew trying to get back home. It just wasn't there. I just wasn't pulled into it. And Enterprise for those first 2 seasons is just like it felt like they're trying to recapture what they did with Next Generation. It's just like, and even the original series to an extent, the intentions were there. I suppose they were noble to some extent, but I just wasn't pulled in. I mean, I'm not really sure. Maybe the era when Enterprise saw the areas, I was like, really. But it got better with those last 2 seasons. But I feel quality wise, it just didn't live up to what I hoped for.
Okay, all right. Colton, did you have another question?
Yeah. What would you say is the best lesson you pulled from being a Star Trek fan overall? From the series, from all 5 shows, and what would you say is the best lesson you pull from watching all this stuff?
I mean, I suppose. I mean, there's many you can take from him. I mean, making many you can take from them, specifically with episodes like, like I said, I mentioned episode from the original series. Devil in the Dark, and there's also Arena. I love Arena, the one with Gorn. Of course, there's Darmok. Of course, with Captain Picard trying to find out how to communicate with an alien captain. You just how it shows how communication language could be more a matter of. It takes a matter of patience, a matter of imagination, so forth and so on. It's just like, I mean, I don't know if I can pin on just one specific episode. Like, there are many, but overall, it's just like, I mean, it's about hope. I mean, to me, it's about hope. It's about hope for the future, hope for mankind. It's just like, where virtues like compassion, goodness, and all that, will survive in the end, and it's about striving to be better than what we are. I think that's the most important lesson of the entire series, and that's why it has stuck with me for as long as it has. I mean, I will always carry that with me, and I think that's that for me is what I truly got from it.
Okay, all right. Mike, did you have another question?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, I'm actually good too. So Colton, unless you have another question, we are going to wrap up with Chris.
No, I'm good. I'll save my other Star Trek questions for you, Paul.
All right, Chris, you have survived your inaugural hot seat. Well done. Okay, Colton, you are up. Are you prepared?
Bring it on.
All right, Chris, you're up first. What is your first question for Colton?
Being this is a spinoff of a very popular cult TV series, why does this strike out to you as the better show overall than Buffy? I mean, how did the spinoff series? I mean, how did the spinoff series impact you more than its parent series?
Well, one thing I liked about Angel is that it wasn't always about, the destruction of Earth and all that jazz. I mean, yeah, they did have to overall, they did have to, fight to save the world and all that jazz. But the stories were a bit more personal, I guess you could say, from time to time. I mean, don't get me wrong, things can get very personal on Buffy, but it was still overall, another season and another big bad, another battle to save Earth. Whereas Angel kind of, was more about saving people's souls, so to speak. Kind of that aspect kind of resonated with me a bit more. But there's this one episode in Buffy where there's this girl that Buffy saves from this demonic cult or whatever, and it ends with and it's like in season 3, the girl's in Los Angeles. Buffy saves her life and helps her, get herself back together, so to speak. And then, but when we see her in Angel, that when we see the girl returns in Angel's second season, we see where she's been, where she's gone, where she's been since then. And it turns out, she's really made something of her life. She's opened up a homeless shelter for runaway teens and all that jazz. She's become a much stronger person than she ever was, than she was on Buffy, and that's one thing I really enjoyed about it. And I also liked how Angel took it more, I felt like the characters were a bit stronger in Angel from time to time. Like Angel himself, I liked him a bit more as a lead than Buffy, even though I also really love Buffy herself. But I liked how Angel was kind of, in Angel's case, he was, dark is not evil. He might be a vampire, but he still wants to help, even though by the same token, he's not really obligated to fight for humans. He can be on the demon sides if he wants. He could be with the demons if he ever wanted to, but he doesn't because he feels like he should atone for the actions he committed as the evil Angelus, even though despite the fact that Angelus was an entirely separate being. Sort of vampirism kind of confuses me, but despite that, Angel still does his best to help people out. And I think one of my favorite episodes is let's see here, one of my favorites. Let me think. Well, one of my favorite episodes was I think the 9th episode, or no, the 10th episode. It was titled Hero, and this is about one of Angel's teammates. His name is Doyle, and in that episode, we find out that Doyle had a chance to help out a bunch of demons escaping a demonic cult of racist demons known as the Scourge. But if memory serves, he didn't when he had the chance, but now he has a chance to do so. And the episode ends with the Scourge about to unleash this bomb that will kill everything within a few mile radius or so. Maybe not a few miles, but basically everyone in its vicinity are going to die. And Angel's prepared to sacrifice himself to get rid of it, but Doyle, seeing as this is his chance to atone for his mistakes, he knocks Angel out, jumps onto the bomb itself, and disables it. Even though it resulting in his death, but even though it results in his death, it's still a pretty strong and pretty heavy moment. Because first of all, it was the 10th episode. You would not expect someone in the series amongst the team to get killed off that early on, but that's with Joss Wine. A shocking but powerful death 10 episodes in, and it's also very strong and not the kind of thing that you often would see in Buffy, because things had a tendency to work out for Buffy and her friends more so than Angel and his team. And I also like the character of Cordelia. On Buffy, she was queen bitch. She was a bully, a bit of the rich popular snob and all that jazz. But when she moved to Los Angeles and joined Angel, she hit rock bottom. She'd already hit rock bottom. She started hitting rock bottom during Buffy's 3rd season, but in Angel, she officially hit rock bottom, and she mostly joined Angel's team because, that was a way for her to make money since they set up a business of helping out people that had supernatural problems and all that jazz. But as the story progressed, she became a much stronger person. She gradually grew to care about the people that they were helping out. And she even, grew even more of a backbone. She would be more than willing to stand up to Angel whenever she thought he was out of line, and she was not willing to put up with any of his shit. Like in season 2, he turned into a bit of an a-hole due to a few tragic events. And during that point, Cordelia was like, "Okay, I know things are bad, but all right, but it doesn't really give you the right to act like this, okay?" And like when Angel came to visit one of their friends when he got shot, Cordelia says he's with his friends right now, and then she turns and then leaves Angel to go see the guy, and Angel just has to stand there because he's like, well, she's right.
Okay, all right, it's pretty good. It's pretty good explanation.
Okay, Mike, you're up.
All right, in the 5th season, Angel basically takes over Wolf in her heart. This evil company has been kind of corrupting everything around him. So do you think that kind of played more towards this, like trying to redeem himself, or do you think that kind of played against that? It was like he had to. It was more of having to fight within himself almost.
It was a bit of a mixed thing. At first, he does, spoiler, but at first he does so because he wants to give his son Connor a better life, and so it's one of those deals with the devil sort of thing. It's like if he joins Wolfram and Hart, then Wolfram and Hart will alter Connor's memories and give him a life with a regular family. Connor won't know he's the son of 2 vampires, and all the horror and hardships and terror he had faced, he won't remember any of it. And so I can see why Angel, would want to do that. Well, Angel failed to. It's Angel's fault that Connor had such a had such a horrific life growing up and all that jazz, because he failed to keep him safe from the vampire hunter Holtz, who kidnapped Connor, raised him in another dimension, and all that jazz. But at first, when it came to the whole Wolfram and Hart thing, you could also say that having their resources would also give him more opportunities to help people out than when he and the Fang game were just going about it on their own. As time progressed, though, one could say that it felt like Angel was trying to lose his path. There wasn't a lot of them personally helping out that many people, so to speak. But then it changed, like towards the midpoint of the season or so, where Cordelia comes out of her coma. And she helps Angel see where he's like sort of falling off his path. And then when we get to the final episode of the season, and as it turns out, the series, because the WB are a bunch of pricks, it turns out. But when we get to the final episode, Not Fade Away, where Angel decides to say screw you to Wolfram and Hart, and he and the team decide to band together to. Even though it's not going to, take Wolfram and Hart down, it's basically a giant. It's still a grand fuck you gesture to the evil organization by taking out their top lieutenants and everything. Angel even asks them if they want to help him out or not. It's their choice, and he says, we're probably going to die. You need to decide right now if this act of defiance is worth dying for it." And one by one, they all raise their hands, saying, "We're with the Angel." And he even just says, before we go out and get ourselves killed or probably die, I want you all to just go out and enjoy yourselves. That won't live this day as if it's going to be your last or something like that. So I felt like by that point, Angel had fully come back to the light and all that jazz. He even when Connor joins him in the final battle, he's very quick to tell Connor that once they've dealt with their lieutenant, he tells Connor to go and live his life. He doesn't want what's happening next to possibly kill him too. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, very much so. Thanks.
No problem.
All right. So here's my first question, and this is only because I've never seen Buffy or Angel any of these shows, but I seem to recall, I think it was Angel who died at the end. Like Buffy killed him at the end of the series to save the world. So how does he come back to start his own show? Like, what's the premise of that?
He dies in it's season 2 of Buffy where he dies. And he's resurrected by, I'm not entirely sure who brought him back to life. I think it was revealed to be the first evil, but I'm a little iffy on some of those details. But yeah, Buffy has to, what happens is that Angel opens up a portal to hell that will swallow the entire, it's either it will swallow the entire world or just Sunnydale. Either way, it had to be stopped. So in order to stop it, Buffy had to kill Angel with the same sword that he used to open the portal. And the portal then sucks Angel down to hell, and he spends, I think he spends like 100 years down there or something like that in hell time. And then the first evil has him thrown back out into the real world. And so like the third season is all about Angel. The third season is all about Angel trying to come back to what he trying to. And at first, Angel is very animalistic at first, but he gradually regains his sanity. And by the end of the third season, he feels like he really can't give Buffy a life he and Buffy can't have a life together due to the advice of certain characters like the big bad of the season and from Buffy's own mom. So Angel decides that once they've taken care of the big bad, that he's going to leave Sunnydale for good, and which he does at the end of season 3, and he moves to Los Angeles in season 1. And the show basically after that, Angel along with a few other Buffy characters, Cordelia from Buffy and the Watcher ex-Watcher Wesley, they all set up this supernatural private investigation outfit to help people out, help people in need and whatnot. Granted, they don't always charge people. Like whenever Cordelia gets a power of her own, which is the power to see the future. And if she sees the future and they go out to save someone based on that, they won't charge anybody. But if the person comes to them asking for help specifically, then they're like, okay, but yeah, it's going to cost you some because this is a business and all that jazz. But amongst all that, they're also fighting this evil law firm called Wolfram and Hart. Yeah, evil lawyer. The villains of the series are evil lawyers. Because, well, why not? What'd you say, Paul?
How appropriate.
Yeah. The villains are evil lawyers, and they're in possession of this prophecy that's called the Shang-Chi prophecy, which prophesizes that the vampire with a soul, which is Angel in this case, will one day play a pivotal role in an upcoming apocalypse. Granted, we never see what that apocalypse is, but probably because they got canceled before they could ever get that far. But because of that, they have an obsession with Angel, and so they're constantly trying to either get rid of Angel or draw Angel to their side, and Angel in turn tries to push back against them, and that's like the main conflict of the series. There's a bit more to it than that. Like season 3 sees Angel fighting against a vampire hunter whose family he murdered when he was evil, and then season 4 is complicated to say the least. But it's against he's basically fighting against a rogue god in that season before the 5th season sees him and Wolfram and Hart going back at it again.
Okay. Okay then, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Chris, you're up again.
Okay, all right. Who was your favorite character in the series? I mean, who's the one that drew you? I mean, in terms of personality.
It's either Angel or Cordelia.
Was she killed off in season 4? Spoiler alert.
Well, she died. Well, no, season 4 is complicated. She's not dead, but she's not there either. Season 5 is where she dies. But anyway, maybe it's complicated.
Season 5 is when they reveal that she's dead.
Right. Which was also complicated.
That was a hard episode to watch. That was a touching episode, though.
Yeah, that was their 100th, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but I probably think my favorite overall is just. I think I'd have to say it's. Man, there's so many good characters in this show, but I'm gonna say my favorite was Cordelia. I love Angel, but I love what they did with Cordy. Like I said, when she was in Buffy, she was just the bully that really didn't care that much about people that were beneath her and all that jazz. But when she transitions to Angel, just seeing, bitchy Cordelia actually, starting to really grow a conscience, understand how badly people need help, and how having the power to see the future of people in distress, how it affected her. It just really. It really got to me, And what I loved most about Cordelia's change is that she doesn't undergo a complete personality rewrite. Like she still has a very noticeable tough side to her and all that jazz. Like I said, she's more than willing to stand up to Angel when he's being a bit of a prick. And there was even one episode where she had to fight one of her old friends that had been turned into a vampire, and when that friend betrayed her, Cordelia was noticeably angry. And considering the fact that Cordelia was useless in a fight back in Buffy, to see Cordelia just straight up hold a crossbow up to the girl's throat, and at first the vampire says, "That's not going to kill me," and Cordelia says, "Yeah, I know, but it will hurt like hell." Then she holds up a second crossbow aimed right at her heart, and she says, "This will kill you." And though she doesn't kill her, though, you do really get the sense that Cordelia, if she had been pushed, she would have actually gone through shooting her best friend, because, she was, at that point, it was like a sort of almost an irreversible betrayal on her part. And especially since Cordelia was at first firmly willing to give her a shot, give her a chance at redemption. But then she sold them out because she felt like, hey, I'm a vampire. Vampires eat humans, all that jazz. Yeah. And I also really enjoyed her relationship with Angel overall, how they came close to, being lovers. But then being that this is a Joss Whedon show, we all know that tragedy has to strike.
We're not surprised to King Cruise.
Yeah, Fred.
Don't remind me. Such a terrible loss.
That was a jump of an ending.
Indeed. But something else about Cordelia that I liked about was that when she was pissed off with Angel during the second season, she said, "Yeah, well, I liked how she showed that she also showed that there's still some vanity left in her, which gave her more personality. Like she said, worst of all, Angel, you gave away my clothes. And so how does Angel get back into her good graces? He literally buys her off with more clothes, and Cordelia is just jumping for joy. She's like, I have new clothes! Yay, yay! She's kissing Angel and all that jazz, and they're both acting all giddy while Wesley is just standing there with the biggest, are you fucking kidding me face on his... Are you fucking kidding me look in his face? And that was the light. And there was like one episode where Cordelia and the gang, they help out this one family. They remove some sort of demonic curse on their daughter, and then the family proceeds to skip out on the bill because they thought this was all one giant trick, and Cordelia spends the remainder of the episode trying to get the money that they're owed. It's not every time you see a show where like they're just firmly okay with like the one of their main characters being being like very vain in a sort of manner, but it doesn't feel like it's but it feels like a natural sort of vanity, I guess you could say, where it doesn't feel like you want to punch her in the face. You just sort of admire her in a sort of way.
That's an interesting choice there. Very interesting. She did quite a lot of character growth there. So,
And then she died because screw you, Joss Whedon.
Hey, you may not be saying that when Justice League comes out.
Well, no. We may, because we find out which character we love the most in Justice League. They're probably going to eat it in the end.
We're start preparing funeral arrangements for the Flash.
Yeah, and also down in the picture of a casting couch that's going to be used for the casting call for this Batgirl adaptation. I'm just kidding.
All right, Mike, what is your next question?
How do you think like the message behind Angel has influenced you the most?
Well, there's a lot of lessons to be had, but I think the biggest lesson that they had, it was in the episode titled Epiphany, which was in season 2. It's after Angel has rescued. He had rescued his friend Kate Lockley, saved her from committing suicide, and as they're having a heart-to-heart towards the end of the episode about, wondering if there's like any, grand plans of life, or if life is just futile or something like that, Angel says, if nothing we do matters, then all that matters is what we do. I think that's a good lesson to sort of draw from this show. Is that, we've only got one life, so we might as well do the best we have with it and help each other out whenever we can, which is Angel's main mission, which is to help out people despite what he sort of did in the past. He's, now he dedicated his life to making up for it, even though he has no idea if it's going to really pan out in the grand scheme of things. But even if it doesn't, it feels good to help people, That's what I love about this show, just seeing them trying to come to the aid of others. Wesley, trying to help bring him up, how they helped out Fred after she was rescued her from Polia, rather than the show just dropping her off. They actually made her a main part of the cast and showed the team really trying to bring her back into the realm of sanity, and just some of the other random extras here or there that they helped out and saved. You never really felt like the characters. You never felt like the victims were just there to be the victim of the episode most of the time. There was a bit more. Like I said, things felt a tad more personal on this show. And of course, there were other messages that I liked out. But there was also, the lessons about free will and all that jazz. Like when they were when the big bad of season 4 claimed, or the assistant of the big bad of season 4 claimed that nothing that they did was in their control. It was all predestined, all preordained, and there's nothing they can do to change the outcome. The gun says that no matter how many players you grease, the final shot is always going to come up a question mark. And immediately one of the other characters said, "So how long did it take you? So do you really believe that, or was that just something that you came up with on the spot?" And Gunn admitted that he sort of made that. He pretty much made it up, but he says it's a better way to live your life, so to speak. Rather than just going your life saying, "Hey, I'm just gonna let things play out the way they are." And it's better to feel like we all have a choice. We all have a say in what's going on. And Fred even says at one point, saying that we should live life like things are inevitable. We should just stare down and say, "Hey, well, guess what? You're inevitable." Okay, that sounds silly when I say it, but trust me, Amy Acker made it sound awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So my next question, Colton, is kind of piggybacking on what Mike said, did you change anything about yourself or your attitude or how you look at things after watching this show?
I'd say that some of my
watching it,
attitudes in life sort of changed from watching the show. Like, in season 2, like I said, Angel was being a bit of a jerk due to a certain string of events, and I actually saw some of myself. I actually kind of really related to how things were going between Angel, and it resulted how things fell apart between Angel and his friends as due to his actions. Like, long story short, when I was 18 or so, I was a bit overly emotional, kind of lashed out at some of my friends, and we had like my short story. We had a bit of a fallout when, and though we came back together, patched things up not long afterwards, and we became good friends again shortly after that. Watching that episode of Angel made me really think about how much of an ass I had been, and how it took, outside forces, a bit of a slap in the face of reality to get me to notice how bad I had been, And so I look back at that episode just to remind myself to not let my emotions get the better of me sometimes, especially not to take it out on my friends.
Okay, it's a good lesson. Good lesson. All right, Chris, do you have another question?
Oh yeah, I mean, since this show's been on has been on the air for about 5 seasons. Which one was the best? What's to you what's the best out of this run, and why did you think it was the best overall?
I'd say my favorite season. Admittedly, I haven't seen seasons. I only saw season 3, 4, and 5 all the way through. Well, I saw most of season 1 and half of season 2, but of the seasons, I'd say that my favorite was actually season 3. One of my reasons I loved it so much was that, well, first of all, it was like the first season where Angel had sort of a proper sort of villain to sort of go up against. Like I said, Wolfram and Hart, they were all sort of trying to manipulate Angel, but I liked how the villain of season 3, because he was a villain. He was a vampire hunter that Angel, whose family had been murdered by Angel back when Angel was evil. And so due to certain forces, he was able to preserve himself and then be awoken in modern times to confront Angel over this, only to find out that Angel had become a good man and he wasn't evil anymore. But despite that, there's still the fact of the matter is that he still killed Angel. He still killed Holtz's family and all that jazz. Hold that thought.
Okay.
Yeah, he still killed Holtz's family. Holtz had been had only revenge on his mind for centuries and all that jazz. And thus, once he came into modern times and he had a chance to gain revenge, he's like, "You might be good now, but that's not good enough for me. Okay, I still want my revenge." It's like a good twist on the takes of and we, strictly speaking, we should kind of be on Holtz's side because he has a good point, and by his own thoughts, he would of course think of himself as the good guy because he's a vampire hunter, and Angel had not been a good man. Neither was Darla, who was with Angel at the time. So Holtz has no reason to really look at vampires in a positive light. And it's basically turning Holtz, like I said, while Angel is dark is not evil, Holtz's light is not good, so to speak. And I also loved Holtz's revenge. Like, season 3 is the season where Angel winds up getting a son due to weird circumstances. It's complicated. And when Holtz discovers this, at first it seems like Holtz is deciding to, call off his vendetta against Angel when he sees that he has a family of his own. But it turns out that Holtz decides to kidnap Angel's son as the ultimate form of revenge. It's like, I lost my family, so you're going to lose yours. Now you're going to lose your own. Now you're going to lose your own family. And the way everything just progresses from Holtz managing to successfully kidnap Connor to raising him in this hell dimension and because time moves fast in hell dimensions, less than a few weeks after Connor's been kidnapped, he returns to the real world as an 18-year-old, meaning that Angel, he's never going to get any of that time back. His son is now grown up and has been raised to hate him. It's probably one of the heaviest story arcs of the entire series, you know. And it's all from a pretty, and it's all due to, and it's filled with a lot of gray morality. And I also feel like it was probably the strongest in terms of acting as well, especially when Angel freaks out at Wesley and almost murders him because it was Wesley's fault that that his son, that Angel's son, got kidnapped in the first place. He really felt just all the rage and pain he felt from losing his son. He's like, "You think I'd ever forgive you? You killed my son! You killed my son, Wesley! You're dead! You hear me? Dead!" Yeah, give David Boreanaz his Emmy there, people.
Okay, so it sounds like we got some pretty strong stuff on that show.
Okay, all right, good job there, Colton. Mike, did you have another question?
Nah, I'm good, thank you.
I'm actually good as well. So, Chris, unless you have another question, we're going to wrap up with Colton.
I'm all good as well. I mean, I think I've asked all I needed to ask about it.
All right, cool.
All righty then, Colton, you have survived the interrogation. You may step off.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mike, is ready or not? You're on the hot seat. I'm not going to bother asking if you're ready because I don't care, really. It's your turn, so deal with it.
I always answer no anyway, so.
Yeah, so I'm not going to ask this time. Ready or not, you're on the seat. So here we go. Chris, you're up. What is your first question for Mike?
Okay, of all the shows that you watched, in this, of all the shows, why this one? I mean, what struck you about the show that made such an impact on you? Why? I mean, why is it this entertained you most of all? Why? I mean, you say it's your favorite TV show, but I mean, like I said, of all the shows you watched, what is it about this one that appeals to you most of all?
Because it kind of showed me that it showed me that it doesn't matter how good the movie is. It doesn't matter how bad the movie is. There is some enjoyment that can be got from anything. Basically, I mean, you had people. I mean, most of the movies on that they riffed on Mystery Science Theater probably made for what I've got in my wallet right now. That and a ham sandwich. It's so people they went to such huge lengths, or sometimes not huge lengths. They had a vision. They had a story they wanted to tell. They didn't have hardly any money for it. They didn't have hardly any skills for it, but they wanted to get it done. And damn it, they made it. It wasn't good, but for the very fact that they made it, and the very fact that the people in Mystery Science Theater, they managed to find enjoyment in it. They managed to make it in a way that we would enjoy it. That's not only it's a very good talent on their part, but it also shows me that it doesn't matter if everyone is telling you this movie sucks. If you like it, there's a reason why you like it. There's enjoyment you can have. So hell, it doesn't matter if someone tells me, hey, Transformers, I really love Transformers 4. Great. I think you're crazy, but you know what? There was something there for you. Good for you.
Well, there's plenty of people who like that movie, but yeah, that's a great explanation there. Great, excellent explanation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Colton, you are up next.
Okay, that might be a little hard to follow up on. Would you say the series had an effect on how you perceived comedy or something?
It did actually. I mean, they would just shoot jokes after joke. I mean, the original KTM, they did their series. They started the series on this public access channel in Minnesota called KTMA, and that one was purely improv. They just made up the jokes on the fly, and you can tell. I've seen some of those episodes. The jokes are really fairly hit or miss, but when they got into the Comedy Central, that's when they started writing the joke. They watch the movies over and over, and they write the jokes. And there are I mean, there are sight gags they make up. There are like comments on just how cheap it looks, but they're also like just comments on pop culture. There are jokes about what they had for breakfast that morning. There are jokes. So if you don't get a joke that you hear on one time, just wait 5 minutes. Wait a minute, and you hear another joke, and that one you might find is the funniest thing you ever heard. So it doesn't matter. Like, that show was great because the jokes ran such a huge gamut that you don't need to be the most knowledgeable person in the world to understand them all. You could know just a few things and still get most of the jokes on there because they made them so widely accessible. And I think that was fantastic. It's whenever you hear like a comedian on stage that can do jokes just about everything, it doesn't matter if you know like their personal lives or not. They make jokes just about a wide range, so that if you don't think one is funny, the next one you might think is hilarious. So it's when you can find a comedian or a show that will do, there's so many jokes that you can get like 90% of them, you got a winner there.
All right, cool.
Okay, so my question, Mike, is how exactly did this show impact you? Like, in what way did it impact you?
Well, I mean, the time, when I got into the show kind of really had a major effect on me as well, because I got into it early 90s, I think. Hold on. I'm not going to look it up at this point. But maybe around like 93, 94. And it was right about that time that my parents were getting divorced. And so to find the show that would just take these really awful situations, in a sense, and still find ways to make them fun and entertaining and funny, that really helped me through where I was at that time. And to this day, I will still credit it really helped me define my sense of humor. Because just I'm making up just jokes on the fly. Yeah, I'm okay, but just seeing a situation and commenting on it, that's where I'm kind of like, it's a little bit easier for me to make jokes about that thing. So that's really kind of where this affected me. Not only like just the way I can view just any cinema and realize, you know what? I can't, I hate that movie, but there's elements about it that I think could be enjoyable. So I can't say it is a complete and utter waste of time. So, the way I view cinema, the way I view humor, that was all it all really kind of came primarily from originally from Mystery Science Theater. I mean, obviously there are more influences on me, but I think that one was probably the biggest one for me. That's why I chose it today.
Okay, that's a damn good reason.
Oh yeah.
Chris, do you have another question?
Yeah. I mean, what? I mean, who was the person on the show that appealed to you the most? Which member of the cast did you like most of all? Would you like?
That one's a hard one. I mean, the host that I liked the most was Mike Nelson, because obviously Mike whatever. But the character was probably the Crow T Robot. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I was say yes. Robot.
Whoa! Wow, Crow just fell apart on me. Unfortunately, he's just. Oh, well, that's one. I'm gonna glue that. But yeah, this is Crow T Robot, and he is probably the character that I like the most because, I mean, the one that has the gumball head, that's Tom Servo, and he is really hilarious, but he tends to be more of the highbrow humor, whereas Crow has got a mean sarcastic streak to him, and that really kind of connects with me a lot because I tend to use sarcasm probably a little bit more than I should at times. But yeah, that definitely definitely my favorite character overall, I think, is Crow. Although none of them I think are terrible characters. Hell, even Gypsy's got awesome moments.
All right. Interesting choice.
Okay. And Colton,
I think he might be a favorite. I think he might be a favorite. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I recognize it's probably gonna be the robot. So.
Colton, do you have another question?
Yeah. Okay, so as you said, like when the show so I haven't really watched the show myself, but I noticed that when the show, but I've seen like clips of it, and I noticed that when the show started off, it was a tad on the cheap side and all that jazz. Whereas nowadays they have, with how big Mystery Science Theater is, they have like all the budget they could ask for. So, is that incorrect?
No, but I mean, they probably could make it more high budget, but it's still, I mean, if you watch the latest season that's on Netflix, it is still cheap. I mean, they use just the cheap old budget. It's obvious that it's like a string is holding the ship, but they do that on purpose. That's great. That's one of the things that I love about it too.
Okay, that's actually gonna be my question, which was, do you like that they're still? Do you like that they're still kind of did you like the cheapness of it, or did you feel like with how much they've got, with how much they've progressed, they could have actually have worked in a more of a budget, so to speak?
Oh no. In fact, that's one of the strongest suits I think for the show. I mean, the fact that they're making fun of these there's one movie, 12 to the Moon, where in the final sequence you've got a couple of people in this spaceship that's crashing down into Earth, and it's obvious that they're the two people that are in the spaceship are in this dark room sitting on a bench. It's blatantly obvious, and then you see the ship coming down, and you can see a stick holding it as it goes through some smoke, and I forget who it was that says, and the movie just ran out of budget. But I mean, that's part of the joy, because they're making fun of these really cheap, really lame movies, and they're kind of guilty of the same. I mean, look at this. Look at Crow here. This little headpiece right here, that was a mask of a lacrosse mask. The mouth, that's a bowling pin. This was a Tupperware. These arms, they were I think they were the stands from a little desk lamp. So
it's pretty cool actually for something that they just made.
Oh yeah, the creator of it, Joel, he was a genius prop comedian. But see, they could take hell, if you watch some of the episodes, I forget which seasons they were, but if you look on the background on the set, you can see the Millennium Falcon. They just took the toy of the Millennium Falcon, stuck it on there because they thought it looked cool, and just painted over it. So they would just take, the whole show probably had a budget, if you exclude the cost of renting the movie, of maybe a couple $1,000. You could probably build in your garage, build a set very similar to what they got, but they made it work because they embraced that cheapness. They didn't try to be anything more than a cheap puppet show. But that's where the joy came from. Is they're making fun of these cheap movies. They're just as cheap, but you see, what? You can make something that like millions of people can love from the stuff that from the stuff you've got in your garage, just put on the set, get a camera, and record something. You know, you don't need to have millions and millions of dollars, which is something I kind of wish that Hollywood would kind of get on the program with sometimes. But that's just another way it's influenced me, is that, you know what, you don't need millions of dollars to make something that millions of people can love. You can do it with just cheapo sets. As long as you've got the cleverness to do it, and some really good writers and comedians, you got entertainment right there.
Definitely. All right. Yeah, thanks. A good one, Mike.
No problem.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. My next question is: I go to assume that you have watched the new series that's on Netflix. Do you feel that show has managed to capture the spirit of the original? Do you think it has the same impact on you that the original did?
Oh yeah. Actually, I was watching I watched a couple episodes while I was in line, waiting to get into Star Wars Celebration back in April, because I got there really early, so I just had the phone on it.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they, like I just said, they, you can see the string holding like the spaceship in the opening credits. You can see it blurring down. They've got like fire on this cardboard set of the moon. So that there's no air in the vacuum, so there's no fire, but they still have got fire going on there because they don't care. They know it looks cheap. They're embracing that cheapness, and they've got some big name celebrities of Felicia Day and Patton Oswalt. I mean, hell, Patton Oswalt voiced the main character of a Pixar movie, so he's a pretty decent sized star, and he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a supporting character, but they still got him. But they didn't try to like elevate him. No, he is like he's the star of this. No, he's just the evil henchman to Felicia Day's evil character. They brought in guest stars of like one episode they had Jerry Seinfeld was there. One episode they had Mark Hamill guest starred. But
Really?
they were just on cheap sets wearing like makeup, and and they would contact King of Worcester, which is Felicia Day's character, through a satellite camera. It was just a regular camera. They didn't try and make it expensive or elaborate. They just this is a cheap Minnesota puppet show. We're not going to try and be more than a cheap Minnesota puppet show, even with these big stars. So it was great, and it was refreshing that they kept that down home Midwest sensibility.
Okay. All right. Good. Chris, do you have another question?
Oh yeah. What were some moments to you? What was your favorite overall moment from the show? What your favorite moments as a whole? What moments to you stood out and say this is like I was like I'm absolutely in love with this. It's like this is absolutely this moment it's so enjoyable. What was the moment? What were the moments to you that stood out to you?
Wow, that is a tough one. I mean, there are over 200 episodes, and I've seen them all. Hell, I've got pretty much all of them either digitally or on DVD. While it is short and it's like a different format than the show, there are some really, really gut-bustingly funny moments in Mr. Science Theater 3000, the movie. When they're doing This Island Earth, I mean, the movie kind of starts with the quote-unquote main character who really doesn't do anything in the entire movie. It's true. Look and watch the movie. It's hilarious. But he's in this like test airplane flying around, and he's got like the joystick on, and suddenly his plane turns green. He's like, I can't control anything. And he's holding the joystick like between his legs, and he's going like this. And they're like, should we be seeing this? And then he lands and he's talking with his buddy and they're just like they're not letting up. It's like, so what was it like being green? Was it fun being green? And they just the movie itself is actually it's some of the best jokes because like they did edit the movie pretty extensively. They took like half an hour of the actual movie out. But the jokes that they put in are just so spot on and clever that I think like the first half hour of that movie is probably some of the best comedy they did.
Yeah.
I could if you give me a chance to watch through the series again, I could probably come up with some more moments. But that just the one that comes out in my mind is just the first half hour of the movie. It is just some pure genius comedy right there.
All right.
All right. Colton, did you have another question?
No, I think that about covers it for me.
Same here. I'm covered. So unless you have another question, Chris, you are free to go, Mike.
I've asked what I've wanted to ask. I'm pretty good.
All right, Mike, you are done. You're off the seat.
Mm-hmm.
Which means
Congratulations, Mike. Wait a minute, Mike, we've got movie sign.
What the hell?
He's not coming back, is he?
I'm pretty sure that was Mystery Science Theater related, but I didn't get the reference.
It was Mystery Science Theater related. It's what they say whenever it's what happens whenever a movie appears, right, Mike?
Yeah, and there was no movie sign. You lied to me.
All right.
Oops.
Colton, yep, I knew that was coming.
You don't joke with someone about movie sign because they will expect a movie sign.
I should find a movie sign and hold it up for like movie here.
No. It's actually movie. They call it movie sign. It's just all the lights are going on.
Oh, okay. All right.
Best Nelson Muntz impersonation.
All right. I guess I'm on the seat now. All right. Chris, I guess you're up first. So fire away.
Okay. All right. What do you like? What are the things you love the most about Star Trek? What is it? What are the things to you says, this show has impacted me the most about my life and in my life, and this is just, and these are the things about it that that draw me to the show most of all. What's it that stood out to you about Star Trek?
Well, let me start off by saying this. Most of my parents are massive Star Trek fans, especially my dad. So Star Trek has been on in my house pretty much from the day I was born. In fact, one of the first movies I ever saw in theaters was Star Trek First Contact. I remember going there with my dad and a family friend.
Mm-hmm.
I also remember I lost a tooth that day, so that was kind of memorable. I left it right in the car before going into the movie. But
wow.
I really started getting into it as like a teenager with like a lot of the reruns of Next Generation DS9 on Spike TV.
Oh yeah.
So what really drew me, so what impacted me about it was the message of hope for the future that Gene Roddenberry believed in. He believed so strongly in humanity. He believed so strongly in our abilities and our purpose to overcome any obstacle including prejudice and poverty and war, and make a better future for our children and our children's children and whatnot. And the way he's brought about doing it was to remember to be tolerant, to be respectful, to understand people. As a teenager, that really spoke to me. That gave me a way to which I could model how I should live, how I should look at people, how I should see the world. And have I gotten it completely right? No, and sometimes I'm ashamed of that at times. There are moments that I'm not a Star Trek fan. Why am I thinking like this if I'm a Star Trek fan? But yeah, I would say that's what it was. Gene's message of hope for the future that really drew me to the show. That really impacted me. It gave me a way through which I could aspire to live my life like.
All right. That's a great explanation. This excellent episode.
All right, Colton, what's your first question?
Okay, I asked Chris this question, so I think I'll ask you this one. Which of the 5 Star Trek shows at the time did you think really captured, Gene Roddenberry's message about what Star Trek is about?
Oh, damn, that's a close one. I don't really think there's one in particular. I would have to say it's probably a tie between Next Generation and Voyager, because not just the diversity of the cast, more so in Voyager than TNG, but what Star Trek is all about is the exploration of the universe. Of, they said seek out new life and new civilizations, and having a long time to do that, and making peaceful contact, making friends across the stars. I thought TNG and Voyager handled that the best.
I'm surprised. Like whenever I hear people bring up Voyager, it's like before Enterprise came along, Voyager seemed to be like the franchise's black sheep or something like that.
Which I don't understand why. I mean, that Voyager is that is Star Trek right there. Voyager is Star Trek. Chris, shut the fuck up. I'm gonna move your ass right now. That is Star Trek.
I can't mute him.
Oh,
now I can.
Here we go.
It was a late effect.
Apparently. Yeah, so yeah. So yeah, that's what it is.
Whereas in the original series, every chance he got, Kirk was like, fuck the Prime Directive.
Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I mean...
But, come on, whenever it suited him, come on.
I get where you're coming from, yeah, but I mean... there's a reason why he's the best, okay?
Fuck the Prime Directive so I can fuck that chick.
I want to fuck that green chick.
But yeah, that's the answer to your question, Colton. It was TNG and Voyager.
Okay.
All right, Mike, what is your first question?
Yeah, were there any episodes of, pretty much any of the series that kind of most stood out for you as something that really kind of pushes Roddenberry's vision?
There are a few that come to mind. And it speaks to just how much of a genius Gene Roddenberry was in using the platform of science fiction to discuss social issues, especially social that were impactful of his time. This Side of Paradise from the original series, which talk about the dangers of hallucinogenic drugs, and you can't fake your way to paradise. Maybe we're not meant for Eden, whatnot. I thought that was very well done. A Private Little War, which is all about an allegory for like just how wars can be unnecessary and how we shouldn't resort to them if we don't need to do it. Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. Absolutely powerful episode about racism. Gene Roddenberry was not a racist by any chance. He abhorred racism. He did not feel it was needed in our society. And the way he handled that through that episode was absolutely fucking brilliant. And then there's one from The Next Generation for me, which really stood out, Measure of a Man, which showcases just what is life? What does it mean to be alive? What makes us as human beings alive? What does it mean to be alive? I thought that episode was so brilliant and so powerful and so engaging. In fact, I seem to recall there are a couple episodes of Star Trek which seem to be showing like a lot of collegiate classes, even though that's not one of them, but I think it should be shown a lot of like ethics classes. That episode really gave me a perspective on certain moral issues that affect our time. Like I look at that episode, I'm like, you can apply those lessons to these other issues.
What it means to be sentient, most of all.
Yes. What does it mean to be sentient? What makes it being eligible for sentience? I thought that was just brilliant. So did that answer your question, Mike?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I'm just looking up which episode that one was. Oh,
that was season 2 of TNG.
yeah, that's where the guy wants to dissect data.
Data.
Actually, kind of going along with that, the one where they mix lore. It's very, very similar to that one.
He didn't make lore.
You
mean his daughter Lal?
Yeah. Sorry, that's what.
Oh, the offspring.
Okay, I would agree with. All right. And to a lesser extent, going on that note, the First Duty from Next Generation, another very good episode.
You said duty.
Okay. Joking aside, when I say duty, I mean like military duty, stuff like that. Okay.
Ethical duty.
Yes. The problem is he already muted himself, so I can't do it. See, he's smart like that. He plans ahead. All right. Chris, what do you have another question?
Okay, who all these shows other than the Star Trek franchise, which is the character that you would say is your favorite?
Oh boy. I've always been fond of like the captains, so like Kirk, Picard, Cisco, Janeway, Archer. I always like them. I've always liked the captains, but I think the ones that I really identify with are the ones are like the outcasts, so Spock or Data, Odo, 7 and 9, T'Pol, because they're the ones who are like trying to understand what does it mean to be human. They're trying to understand. To humans, to us, are like humans to them are just these strange puzzles of creatures. They can't understand, trying to relate them. And, being someone who has next to zero social skills, I relate to them because I'm always trying to figure out, what are you talking about? What does that mean? So I would say my favorites are the captains, but I always identify the most with like those outcast characters, the ones who are trying to understand humans.
Okay, all right. Interesting explanation. Yeah, I thought you were going to thought there was going to be a particular one. But that's good enough. I'll go with that.
If I had to pick one, it would probably be Data. All
yes.
right.
10 minutes.
Colton, did you have another question?
Yeah. Okay, so earlier I was mentioning how I don't usually hear a lot of people saying good things about Voyager before you did, and so
I'm sorry.
You get one chance. You get one freebie, Chris.
I'm not even giving him another freebie.
Anyway, like I was saying, I don't often hear people say good things about Voyager prior to you, Mike, Paul. So anyway, my question for you is, what is it about Voyager that you said that Voyager is Star Trek? So aside from what you mentioned earlier about about how diverse the crew is, what else about Voyager do you think is really gets what Star Trek is about?
The exploration of it. I mean, I know they're trying to get home, and Janeway does say that at the beginning, our top priority is to get home, but they're not. But that doesn't mean they're sacrificing the primary mission of Starfleet, which is seeking out new life, making new friends, traveling the stars, learning what's out there. They're in a whole new section of space that has never been explored by the Federation. So they have a golden opportunity here to learn a whole lot and bring it all back to Earth when they get home. They don't forget that, even though their mission is to get home, and they never lose track of that. But they also don't forget, hey, we're on a mission of exploration. We're in uncharted space. Let's go out there and see what's out there. That's what Star Trek is all about. It's all about the exploration, the wonder of the galaxy, and seeing what's out there, and showing and being peaceful and whatnot. That's what Star Trek is all about. And I thought Voyager handled that very well.
Okay, that's a good point.
All right, Mike, do you have another question?
I asked Chris. I'll ask you. Which of the Star Trek movies do you think best exemplifies Gene Roddenberry's message?
Yeah, I really had to think about that. Honestly, I don't think any of them do, really. If I had to pick one that maybe came the closest, I would probably say The Undiscovered Country, number 6, just because of how well they paralleled the end of the Cold War aspect and casting the Chancellor like a Gorbachev kind of figure, and kind of the parallels, seeing hearing Kirk is like one of these old Americans saying, "No, the Soviets are bad. We don't trust them. They're Klingons. Let them die. Let them die." So I think that one, and having seen him overcome that negativity thought toward the Klingons, and you can understand where he's coming from. After all, these are the guys that killed his son. They caused them a lot of headaches over the years and whatnot. So seeing him kind of grow the character, like, okay, I need to let this hatred of mine reside for the good of our future. So I think that one came the closest. But if you're asking if any of them got Gene Roddenberry's, I would say no.
Looking back on it now, that seems the one to become that gets the closest because that really is it does have a beautiful message, about overcoming prejudice, hatred, and stuff like that. Yeah.
The funny thing is, I believe that's the one that Gene Roddenberry hated the most.
Yeah, he hated that, and he hated Rapicon.
Well, he apparently he and the director of the Undiscovered Country had a rather tense meeting that the director actually to this day regrets because he said like I could have handled it better because I guess Gene didn't think that like Kirk would have responded with that racism thing. He felt that he would have gotten over it. Yeah. But you know what?
It's kind of hard to get over the death of your son that you never got a chance to know.
Yeah, I think I do. It's Gene Roddenberry, but I do think that I tend to side more with the director.
I mean, that scene where McCoy is trying to save that Klingon, one of the higher ups in the Klingons, and he's like not familiar with their biology. The guy's slowly dying, but before he dies, his last words to Kirk are like something along the lines of "Don't let it end like this."
Don't let it end this way.
Yeah.
I mean, that was heavy, and that's it. And it reminds me that they're trying to bury the hatchet once and for all. They have a chance to do something great, and it's not like the guy doesn't even think that Kirk was behind it all. He just wants to make sure that this isn't his last. He just wants to make sure his last words are something that can try to save face between the two races.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Was that good, Mike?
Oh yeah, very good. Thank you.
All right. Chris, do you have another question?
Yeah. I mean, what were some of your favorite moments? What was your favorite Star Trek series? I mean, what's the one that's the best? Not the whole one.
That's like asking me which one of my cousins do I love the most. Okay, I'm not going to answer that question because I don't have an answer. There is not one that I like above the others, really. I would say like the ones that I tend to rewatch the most are probably Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. But if there's one that I love above the others, no, there really isn't. I think all of them are good.
Okay.
All of them have their bright points.
Okay. It's good enough for me.
All right. Since Colton is not here right now, Mike, did you have another question?
Nah, I'm good.
Okay. Oh, come on, Colton. Please come back. We need to know.
I could try and come up with one if you want.
Keep the noise down, please.
Chris, you didn't happen to have another question, did you?
I don't. I'm good. I'm all good.
Encounter at Farpoint. What'd you think? As far as a way to kick it off in a way to kind of reintroduce a new generation, literally the next generation, to Gene Roddenberry's message.
Honestly, I think that whole first season of Next Generation, I don't think it was a very strong season, but
I agree.
I don't, but that's only because, it's the first season, they were still trying to find their footing. And, when it comes to like first seasons of television shows, you got to tend to like cut them some slack because, as I said, they're still trying to find their footing. This is the first season they've done in close to 20 years. They're trying to figure out, and it's like I said, new ship, new cast, 80 years in the future. They're trying to be an entirely different show than what the original series was. they were really trying to figure out what their show was, what their identity was going to be. So yeah, I don't think that season started off particularly strong. Or even the second season had a lot of low points. It wasn't really until season 3, I think, that Next Generation really found its footing.
Yep.
Look who's back.
Sorry, my parents seeing me for a second. What I miss?
Did you have another question, Colton?
Yeah, I did. Okay, this is another black sheep question. So, like I said, Enterprise is now the franchise's new black sheep. Well, Discovery might have something to say about that later, but we'll see about that. But my question is, did you like anything that from Enterprise? Did you think it had any lessons still that were still firmly Star Trek in it?
Well, I mean, considering that, it's going as far as like lessons, I don't think there's really anything else they could teach, considering that the rest of the seasons have already done it so well. I would say that it, like in Next Generation, it took Enterprise a while to find its footing. Like the first 2 seasons were really kind of like a threat of the week kind of thing. It wasn't until season 3 and the Xindi invasion that it really found its footing and became, oh my God, this is Star Trek right here. This is a friggin' Star Trek show. But I thought it was nice hearing the origins of a lot of things that, Star Trek is so known for, like the origin of the Prime Directive, why the Klingons look so different in the original series as opposed to the rest. Getting some backstory into some of these, archaic, archetypal moments or in Star Trek history was nice. But as far as lessons go, no. I don't think there's really much they could teach at this point.
Okay. But would you still say it's still at the well? You still answered my question that season 3 said it was still firmly Star Trek and all that jazz.
Yeah, season 3
cool.
They really found their footing.
All right, cool.
All right, guys. So I think that is going to wrap things up from here. This was definitely a very fun episode. So I want to thank you all for joining here. Chris, it was a pleasure having you back here.
It's great to be back and joining the nerds again. It's just nice to be united with you guys. Nerds unite.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Colton, it was a pleasure having you here.
It was a pleasure to be here. And remember, if nothing we do matters, then what matters is what we do.
Very powerful words there. Colton, Mike, it was a pleasure having you here.
I did myself. Yeah. Anyway, great to be here as always, and we got movie time.
What? Where?
All right.
Live long and prosper, everyone.
Yeah, you can clearly tell we've been here a little bit too long. It's getting late. It's time for us to hit the bed. So we'll see you all next week. Until then, live long and prosper, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.